Welcome back after a very short break. We're ready for Erangel. We're ready for the next few games of the IESF qualifier. This is Asia and Oceania. Group A today, for anybody that hasn't realized, for anybody that's still looking for Palestine, or Pakistan, excuse me. Palestine is here today. Pakistan is coming back tomorrow. We have 5 more games to you. We had a coach 1v4 in our game number 1. And we had a very convincing win for Kazakhstan, closing the gap up nicely. Felix, what are we hoping to see here in the next few games?
Well, I was hoping for another 1v4 from Hamzi, but apparently he's going to be replaced by Dream, who is in the usual lineup, so no more coach 1v4s. Then again, what are we hoping for? I think I'm hoping for Jordan or Uzbekistan to get wins, because both these teams are still on the cusp of getting in reach for these top 2 qualification spots. We saw a team that was the runner-up get it to dinner and still not making the top 2. So that just goes to show you how far that distance actually was in the first place. So yeah, if I had to wish for anything, I'm just going to hope that Uzbekistan is going to win or Jordan is going to win. Both of them would probably propel them to probably around close to the 70-point mark, and that's where they need to be.
I'm super interested to see how Mongolia handles this, what they are able to achieve in the next few matches. They've just sort of had a rough start to the day, but they're still absolutely in contention, right? They're still very close in front of 3rd place and close to catch up to Bahrain. But yeah, they have gotten a little bit of a dent in their armor now, and Bahrain has run away with it just a little bit. So the pressure's on them. The pressure's on them to try and pull anything off. Kazakhstan as well, really good sort of survival strategies from them, right, to even make it into that late game. So that's going to boost confidence quite a bit, and we'll see what they are able to do with that, because that's a much harder win than if Bahrain would have closed this one out, right? So that feels really damn good to be able to work yourself through all these obstacles.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, talking about obstacles, that last zone, I gotta talk about it again. That last zone was just full of obstacles. And I gotta also talk about how Bahrain not really got what they wanted from this one. 11 points only in a zone like this. That's just, I mean, that's gotta hurt. I want to see them now actually take the opportunities they've been given, which they have done so far, and actually turn them into a win. And I know they haven't struggled with this in the first group day, but if they start to struggle with it now, it's going to come down to the wire. As we know, it's only a single point difference to these qualification spots for some of these runner-up teams, especially Kazakhstan. So if I'd be in the shoes of Bahrain, I'd be worried at least a tiny bit, because I just realized, hey, these teams can catch up. If they have a good round, even a round where they don't necessarily get the zone, they can catch up. But ladies and gentlemen, it is time for match number 8, Erangel.
The good old faithful coming back into it, and it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes up things now. The teams have a little bit more space to work with, right? We have Sanok, much smaller map, much more congested, a little bit crazier zones that you can potentially get. Now we're going back to the old classic Erangel. Everybody knows it so well, and plenty of space, plenty of rotation routes, plenty of usage for cars. So it's going to shake things up a little bit, but who is going to benefit? That's something we still have to see.
There should be enough space for everyone on this map. As we've said, it's only 9 teams now we are playing in this one. UAE, unfortunately, not able to participate today. But let's be honest, after the first day, they weren't really in contention for it anyways. Bahrain is going to pick up one of the safest spots so far. It is down towards Novo. No one's really ever going to contest you there. And the rest of the teams, as we've seen, not really going any close to each other, except for maybe Georgiapol, but even that is not going to be in contention. As you can see, it's going to be split between North and South Georgiapol.
Far northwestern shift as well. Bahrain and Kazakhstan, the top 2 teams from the last game, are the ones that have to travel the furthest. But that is a little bit mildened by the fact that there should be plenty of space, and there should be plenty of ways into the zone with 10 teams in the lobby. Teams like Jordan, very good. Let's put Pachinki. They don't have the furthest routes. They have a little bit more of a pick of where they want to approach this and where they want to play this from. But as we've seen yesterday, I think, and as we've seen even in that last game, phase 1 position is cool and all, but it's very easily outclassed by just making the better decisions in the late game.
Looting phase. Gonna be a little bit longer than what it usually always is. In this turn team lobby, you don't need to rotate as early as you usually do. It's gonna give an advantage to all of these teams that are not really blessed with a zone, at least in phase 1. Which is also really interesting. I think in general, the zone is probably less influential in the lesser team lobby, just based off of how much space there is going to be in the first phases, and how much more space you have also up until phase 3 and phase 4. So there's going to be more spots relatively centralized being free, and there's less chance of you being taken out in rotation. In my opinion, be interested to hear your thoughts. But in generally, I think that's also what we've seen so far. The favorites, if they do play well, do secure the top spots.
Yeah, it really depends on what zone as well, right? You have different kinds of circles in there that might require different measures. Sometimes you have a circle that's so far away from you that you might not even want to rotate early. Sometimes you have a circle like this where you're not sure where it ends. Does it end north or south of the river, right? There's plenty of opportunities for that to go wrong if you do commit very early. So I think strategies can wildly differ. But in general, especially if you're not one of the top 2 teams, not one of the top 3 teams, getting yourself a good position early is a good recipe for success. If you feel like you can adapt to the lobby, if you feel like you can outplay your opponents at all times, then position might not matter as much. But if you're just trying to play good basic PUBG, getting yourself a good position early is something that's going to make your game so much simpler and easier.
Oh yeah, I was always the one to say, hey, if you want to keep it simple, go for centralized positions. You'll have less chance of, screwing things up.
Yeah,
there is so much more potential in each and every single fight, and each edge play, in terms of which positions you take, what information you will receive. And sometimes this also isn't anything you can do on edge play. Sometimes you are just stuck. There is no rotation path if the rest of the lobby is heavily focused on towards you edge anyways. Then maybe just one more team on your edge can just not give you an entry anymore, whereas other edges will be free. And that is stuff that you kind of go around if you just play centralized. So yeah, I've always been a heavy defender of playing centralized.
There's nothing to be ashamed about when playing simple PUBG, and you do make it a little bit simpler. The more you play edge, the more space you need to take, the more decisions you need to make, and the more mistakes might creep into your game. So it's much simpler to play close together. It's much simpler to play power in numbers. But what we've seen before, remember Uzbekistan sitting in a bottom in a very centralized but lower ground compound, 4 guys strong. And the second they move out, they lose a player, right? So it's not as simple as just taking a compound and being okay with it. You do have to have your wits about you. You do have to make the right decisions. And one decision we've just witnessed is Mongolia sending 1 player to the northern side of the river with the other 3 still far off to the south. So they're already trying to take their first few splits, and we'll see what that does to the rest of the lobby.
You can also tell that Bahrain and Kazakhstan, none of them is really trying to make an early move. First of all, because the zone is that far away, you wouldn't have pry on any spots as well. Second of all, as you said, the zone isn't really sure where it's going to shift to. It could still very much end south or north. So if you decide for one of these spots early, you might find yourself in a really tough spot actually crossing the river afterwards. And third of all, you don't really have a problem rotating in towards these edges later, because there's just that few teams all around you. So I'm really liking this thinking process. It's exactly how I'd play it as well. Do take your time, make sure you're stacked up on absolutely everything, and only then you have any reason to actually move.
Yeah, that is strategy we see a few teams employ. The only thing that's a little tricky about that is you got to make sure that nobody's interrupting your happy looting phase. We have we have a team in Yasnaya right now, and then the Dupovka team is already making a move. You have to be a little bit careful about what you do there, how you clash with each other, and how ready you are for players still sitting, looting around you. But so far, no knocks just yet, no fights in the kill feed. Jordan, top of Everest, as we call it, top of the big mountain. Tons of information for them, tons of rotation routes later on. And if they get a sudden shift, then they're in the most centralized position. So I love this position for them, but we'll have to see what their decision making is if it does go north. if it does go north, most of the bridges are occupied. It's not going to be an easy path for them.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some wraps here. Depending on, as you said, whether or not it's going to go north or south. Because, yeah, these bridges are always tough to cross. Unless you get an entry relatively early, it's not going to be too secure. Driving over, Mongolia find themselves a spot on the other side. And that's what you want to do. Get your options open. This round, the option is the bridge. And with them securing the compound on the other side, as well as having the container areas locked down, you would have a rotation path for north and for south. So no worries here at all for Mongolia. Yeah. They will set themselves up nicely.
It's the easiest thing to do on a 50-50 zone, is make sure you have options for both. And a lot of the times that involves having a bridge control, right? Having that little threshold that's separating both of the zones, having that under your control. They don't have full control over it here with Tajikistan on the hillside, but they have a possible cross. And if everything goes south, you know, and they have to make a ascend, they can always fly into the water with their cars and come back up the other side. That's still entirely possible. So this is one of the best setups you can have for this zone. But it is only phase 1. There's a lot of things that this circle can still do. There's a lot of ways this can still send us. And not even Mongolia knows at this point what the right play here is. But they're flexing out already. They're pushing away players and making sure that they have a little bit more space than what they were working with just a minute ago.
I love how fast they realized that this player rotated off and how fast they retook these positions. And you can tell everyone is now trying to focus on this northern side. And as you said, push players away, get more information in case it does shift even farther north. I would say the north, just based off of phase 1, has been favored anyways. It looked like it was kind of like a 60-40, maybe even more than this, maybe a 65-35. That's why everyone else is already that fast towards the northern side. Lebanon and Palestine kind of having a little bit of a skirmish around here, but yeah, Lebanon, despite stopping for a minute, is continuing to rotate off.
Knocks in the kill feeds as well. Looking like it might have been Tajikistan there that found the shorter end of the barrel, but it's Kazakhstan on the other side as well. There's a lot of casualties already in these early phases. That's Puncher going down. And that's, oh, that's a third knock onto Kazakhstan, I think. That's at least 2. I'm not quite sure what's happening. Is it a full breach? Jordan is trying to hold on to the cube compound. And it's not looking good for Kazakhstan right now, as they are trying to claw this back. They're trying to consolidate the position, but Ragnarok does not want to give them the time of day. He's trying to close this out right here and right now.
Yeah. Let's see if it works for him. Ragnarok pushes around the corner. Oh, he does not even get the first shot off. And Ragnarok will be taken down immediately. Now Kazakhstan secures this one. That is disastrous. That should have been his frag. I thought he would have a perfect opportunity to make something happen here. Maybe even a 1v3 with his position, plus the health bars on the opposition, and obviously the shotgun in hand. But it's not supposed to happen, I guess. Not supposed to happen. That means Jordan will lose to that direct composition on the overall leaderboard.
Just a few seconds too slow, but Kazakhstan, they want to roll back up the hill. They want to retake their position without scouting it first, and they get met with a little bit of opposition. It's Uzbekistan on top, instantly traded out though, and that's where that second man comes in so big, right? You do that play alone, you're knocked and flushed, but now it should be able to res them back up, go back up to 3 players. 2 kill points, not the most. You want to take away for losing a player, but at least they are able to consolidate, slow things down, go for a bit of a breather, and figure out what they want to do with the rest of this game with at least 3 members up.
Six has to be careful. Clever is just around the corner. M6 goes down very low. Somehow he jumps into the water. That is one hell of an exit. That is one hell of a disengage, but it works out. And if it works out, well, I guess don't judge it. Clever does have to fall back. How the hell did he make that one? That was interesting. So I thought as soon as he gets up on the bridge and tries to walk down, I thought that's going to be his safe death, but apparently it isn't. Kazakhstan will stay alive as 4.
Has his wits on him. Makes sure he gets away from the situation. Again, a scrappy game for Kazakhstan. Not a chill, collected early game here. They are not scared of getting involved, but it's a bit of a messy one on that southeastern edge especially. Lots of drive-bys, lots of players just scooting around, trying to find openings, trying to find entries, but Kazakhstan able to hold for now. Circle has gone northwest. Mongolia on the southern side holding steady. But the center compound looks mighty crowded right now, Felix.
Yeah, it looks mighty crowded indeed. Question is, are we going to have teams in phase 3 already in this kind of circle really pressuring to fight each other? I would argue no, but we're seeing differently for the time being. There's still so much space that is to be played from almost for literally every team. Like, everyone would have a position to play off of if they would want to, if they would scout securely. Some of these teams are just sending it on through, and I think Jordan is one of them. Just below Palestine, they're now driving through these ridgelines, looking for any kind of spot they can play off of. That's going to be tough because Tajikistan is just on the other side, and Palestine is still on top of the hillside. But no, they will continue to rotate further. Tajikistan is even driving outside of the compound to potentially have a shot at shooting them outside of the cars, but no, they will make it past. And look at this, they're just driving everywhere right now. They're just taking a complete tour of the entire circle, looking for any kind of spot that is still open.
Uzbekistan as well, just sending it north and then just coming straight on back a few minutes later is a bit of a question mark for me. And like you said, plenty of space in the circle still. Palestine trying to hide on out, trying to get some freebies towards Bahrain, trying to make sure that they get an entry there and don't get caught off guard. But Bahrain is taking their time with it, scouting carefully. They lost a full game to a solo in the last round on Sanok. They don't want to have the same thing happening to them again. It can be tricky to spot out these snakes and solos, but they are trying their very best to make sure that they have the game in their own hands and they're not just risking it.
Not just risking it indeed. Uzbekistan, the teams that might have to risk it now. Mongolia being on the other side. And that building really being the only exit out of the city means they will have to close the distance and potentially engage Alex here. They don't know where he is for now, but maybe as soon as they clear this lower stage, they will. Next fight is just on the other side. Mongolia, I think they've just breached Clever. Maybe Clever has breached them, actually. We haven't really caught that on camera. But as of right now, it is a 1v3.
Yeah, I think Mongolia's been holding this for quite a while now. Alex, does he get the nade up the stairs? I'm not sure if that actually went up, but he's got something to deal with on his own. The rest of the squad trying to trade out Clever. Like you said, they're trying to close out the solo above them, make sure they don't have a problem with that. Beautiful nade out of Rogue. And that spares them the fight. That means they can just move on now, help their teammate versus Uzbekistan, and collect another kill point for themselves. Good showing so far from Mongolia. Exactly what we were talking about. Controlled, structured, and not taking any risks. So I love to see that.
The team play to throw it up just when the teammates are arriving and pushing up the staircase is massive. And Alex with a second nade as well to top things off. Uzbekistan in deep, deep trouble as they are getting preached by Mongolia. And that's the fight you want to see from them. Clear out your edge. You know have the advantage anyways. And look at this. From a 1-on-3, it suddenly becomes a 1-on-4. Maybe, excuse me, a 2-on-4 now as two Uzbekistan players are still alive. But they are stacked in this building. And they need to move fast because the rest are coming in. Mongolia now is back up to a 3v4.
Few nades from the outside are trying to do the trick, but it's not as easy when the players are stuck in one room together. Now the util's being traded out. A lot of players are at risk of exploding here. Rogue is taken down in the process, and it's more damage coming towards Mongolia than away from them. Now they're starting to get the trades back a little bit. Medkit comes out just in time. The DBS is better though, and it's not looking good. Mongolia is falling to pieces here. That's the second one going down. I think they're just one up at this point, Felix.
That is nasty from Uzbekistan to realize there's this player on the other room and he's isolated. It's so good. Demo gets one, but he gets traded out. Uzbekistan has almost done it. It is two more players left alive for Mongolia, if I saw that correctly. Oh, actually, it's three now that I think of it. Yeah, Rogue goes down. Suddenly, they've only really gotten that frag down low, and the meanwhile, Uzbekistan has lost one on their own.
Rogue still knocked, now flushed. Now, it is actually the two-man we've been talking about. 2v2 in the building with a different team looking on in. And just like that, a controlled, slow game is falling apart for Mongolia at the hands of Uzbekistan. 3 eliminations for them. And they're starting to run out of util now. There's still a few nades here or there, but the DBS is coming around the corners. They're just trumping everything. Demo is already far away, looking for an opening towards the circle. Finds one onto Kazakhstan, who are trying to third party this, trying to be the benefiters. But now it's 1 for Demo, 2 for Uzbekistan, and they are getting held out of this circle. That's a good nade. Oof. Just a tiny wall in between them.
Nade is coming on through. Oh, Demo hits the nade perfectly. And the headshot in before he did it, I wanted to say, it hits the headshot on the flush immediately after. And that means it's down to a 1v1. It is just 1 left for Uzbekistan and 1 left for Mongolia. And that fight, I thought that was perfect decision-making from Mongolia to breach this. Take the 4v3, take an isolated 4v3 especially. But look at this. Look how it turned out. It turned off absolutely horribly for Mongolia. And for Uzbekistan likewise.
There's such a hard building to breach, right? So many angles to deal with. They even get the opening with the nade, but then once they come into the top floor, they're walking through so much util. They're just blowing up and not able to withstand the pressure. Now, Bahrain on the other side, the other favorite that we're talking about so much, they've lost 1, but they've gotten themselves some kill points to compensate for it. Finding Chappie now and trying to bring the fight to Turkmenistan, who are just falling away from it right now. Nades sometimes can be deceiving. That one looked good, but again, barely touched. Repositioning. Doesn't want anything of this fight. Now taking half damage, though. It's not looking like this is over just yet.
No, not just yet. That nade could do heavy, heavy damage. They know where the players are, but he gets spotted out by Ito somehow through the leaves. He goes down, and that means Bahrain is all down to just 2 more players, and they have not got for YOD or Neo's left alive. The 2 main fraggers for that team. Maybe Chappie's gonna give them at least a little bit more info. They should know now that Frizzer is rezzing at this tree because the rest of the players have gone down. So it's only Ito actually left alive, and yeah, with the agenda going down and Chappie soon to follow as he's right next to them, they should have all the info, but only 1 more player left standing. So that means Bahrain has got a pretty easy entry now on their western side and should make it in safely.
Those are the fights you love to see for a team like Bahrain. You feel like you're better than the rest of the lobby. You take some isolated fights. You're trying to find space where you can and punish the teams around you. Now, they know that they have a 2-man in front of them. They know that they have a 2-man that's not in the circle as well in front of them. So they can continue to keep taking these fights and work their way on in. If they don't step on snakes, if they don't drive into solos, then they should be good. But I'm saying that Frieza is driving into almost a 3-man just by himself.
Yeah. That's Frieza going down. Unfortunately for them. But they've gotten 6 frags already. And look at this. Tajikistan is actually the one to pick it up. They will need to do way, way, way more, though, if they want to have another chance at this. Oh, good part! Sprays him out of the vehicle! Jabobo, one of the MVPs from 2 days ago's game from the last group stage from Group A. It's unfortunately in this game, not on the 8th one. It's not going to happen. Jabobo headshotted out of the vehicle. Good spray coming in from Bahrain. They will pick up their 7th frag. Look at this. It's only Palestine now, if you take a look at the leaderboard, that is alive with the full 4 men.
A lot of the top teams gathering points for themselves again. Mongolia with 5, Bahrain with 7, but still counting. It's not looking good for the catch-up squad. A bit further down the leaderboard. Kazakhstan down to 1 as well. Remember, they were trying to third-party this, and they got punished instantly, and so now 6 left to his own devices. Circle's closing on in 5 seconds. Going to tell us a little bit more where this game is going to end. But I can already tell you that Bahrain is continuously just running away with it on the leaderboard.
Running away indeed. Palestine in a relatively safe spot for now, but they will need to move in. I think plenty of other teams have already got their sights on them. Bahrain also in the meanwhile have secured themselves 8 frags already, so another one came to the 7 they had before. And I don't think it's stopping anytime soon. You can tell, even with the 2-man, they've got more chances, and they want to create more chances for themselves. Turkmenistan on the other side, also one of the teams that is currently inside the safe zone, only with a 2-man. That's one more big opportunity for Bahrain to fight themselves inwards. If they do decide to kind of bridge the distance towards them and breach their ridge line, they would have really good chances now of making that flight work. And as I say it, they're already driving towards them.
A little bit disappointed that they lost Frieza here earlier. Could have been a big factor in this fight. Could have been a big factor in potentially winning this game, especially now with them taking the fight towards Turkmenistan. They are going to take quite a lot of space on that western edge. And if you've seen the map, not a lot of this is extremely playable. It's the compound in the middle, and it's the spine on the left that's really going to be the dominant positions. So taking that as a 3-man could have been the recipe for the win that they missed out on in the first game. They go a little overzealous. They get a little punished. And they make the game a little bit harder for themselves, especially with a P90 facing up against them.
Klaus spotted out the first player, but he's having trouble because there's one more player breaching his ridgeline. He gets caught off guard and flashed out immediately. His teammate is not there for the trade. How unfortunate is that timing? How massively unfortunate for Turkmenistan. Even that nade is not going to hit anything. Aito knows that he's being targeted now. Switches to the other rock. There's nades being thrown back and forth, and that gives Aito another chance of somehow surviving this onslaught that's coming down. He tries to close the distance. No, not going to happen. Aito is going to be taken out as he tries to make it to the next tree over, but not going to happen. That's what I said. Bahrain, if they bridge this distance, which they did, they're in perfect spot to make something happen. Oh, no.
That's the opposition they're facing. Nobody else has anything left in this circle. It's really just the compound that's very playable, and everybody else getting stuck outside of it is getting absolutely peppered through smokes as well. Ayo finds one, and then it's just one lonesome player in a buggy. Six is getting involved as well, wants to steal as many of these points away as he can. He's trying to keep this into contention. He's trying to keep this possible for Kazakhstan. He doesn't want anyone to run away with anything. But for now, it's looking like the Bahrain show, and it's looking like they're going to continue it on from the ridgeline. Six is the one to stop them. If he can 1v2, massive again for his team. But he does kind of have to if he doesn't want the gap to become unsurmountable.
Yeah. No nades being thrown now. But I'm not sure Palestine realized how strong that from this position from Six still is. You can tell. I don't even think that matters because more players being taken out. That's the substitution now for their coach, Dream. Last player to fall for Palestine. And look at this. They have not made a single frag so far in this round. Palestine have been chasing the circle for the entirety of this game. And look what they've been given. I think 3 placement points as it stands right now. Maybe a 4th one, depending on how they finish. That's probably all they're going to get from this one.
It's not looking great. And we've seen Tajikistan as well trying to flex out of the compound there. And we've seen Adu punch them right back in, making sure they stay away. Now, they have to make that move. They have to make the move towards the ridgeline. Bahrain is in the power position for the time being. So if they don't move out of the compound in time, the blue will be on their backs and make it even harder. They're going now. They're taking a lot of damage in the process. And they're hoping to maybe get the heals back up, or maybe just send it regardless. But you send it right below Bahrain, things are not going to go all too well for you. So they're trying to find a place to call home. S6 finds Timon. And we're down to just 3 teams. The solo, the duo, and then just Tajikistan desperately trying to make a move into this play zone.
Tajikistan having the advantage with this circle. And let's be honest, they've had this advantage for the last 4 phases. They did not have to move. They could play around that compound for the entirety of the game. So quite in contrast to what Palestine had to do in this one. But Tajikistan also needs it. They need it so very desperately if they want to get any kind of chance at qualifying for the IESF World Esports Championship in Riyadh later this year. Then they need to pick up this game and one more, that's for sure, in the remaining ones. But there is still Bahrain, and if we've learned anything about Bahrain, then that they are not to be underestimated. So even that position is not going to grant them too much. And look at this, the first knock has already been dealt.
It's a big knock as well, cost them a lot of time, cost them a lot of smokes, and it's not the productivity you would have wanted to see from Turkmenistan coming out of the compound. You would have wanted them to punish, to flex out and take a fight towards Bahrain. Instead, they're trying to hold out behind these trees. I think once 6 goes down, which should be inevitable here, he should not be able to make it to that tree. He somehow has. He's stuck alive for a little bit longer. Now the util's going to come on out. The first aid should be faster than that nade, though. Does he have a chance to retaliate? Does he have a chance to peek on over? Yes, he's taking the push. He's trying to take the 1v1. The DBS is there. The drive-by is there. This is so hard for 6. Does he find a 1v1? He does. He singles out one, but the third party from afar is what cost them in the end. Ayo cleans that up. A chance again for Turkmenistan to do something with this, but they're not ready to punish. They're not ready for it yet.
No, Tajikistan unfortunately just not grabbing as much space as maybe you would want to. But as I say, that Golden is trying to get the angle just right here. He needs to be careful though. But Bahrain has no idea. First one goes down, and the second one as well. And there it is. Tajikistan picks up one hell of a round. They really needed this one, and yet they've been given the zone. But they needed to finish it off strong, and they did. That was not an easy 2v2 to win.
That was beautiful towards the end. We said they needed to grab space, and he's already on the run, going as far as he can. They have no idea, and Bahrain finds themselves another second place. You have 4 eliminations for Tajikistan. That's the curse of sitting in a compound that gets fed, but they're going to be happy about 14 points regardless. And yeah, well cleaned up in the end. 6 almost doing the unthinkable there. I think he pretty much cost Bahrain the game with that knock he was getting.
Yeah, he did.
But it's another Bahrain reigning supreme show here for us, Felix.
Yeah, I think 6 saved Tajikistan the game. There was no way they were going to win this with Bahrain clearing him out and then having 2 players up on that ridge line. I think it very obviously came down to that. Let's take a look at some of these highlights from this game. I thought that was the moment where Kazakhstan and Jordan were going to clash a little bit more than they did.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Erangel couldn't really get more than that first initial knock, so unfortunate for him. And then we had that whole fight with Uzbekistan. Very surprising, I think, to all of us, handling that fight in a massive, massive way. I thought when they were stuck on the very rooftop and Mongolia knew that, I thought it was going to be a cleanup. 4v3, you know, get in there, you have the utility, you have the nades, but they somehow defended it beautifully, and I think Mongolia didn't really realize how many players were out there. I think it was some kind of information mistake, because I cannot see them not going up there as a group, as a four-man, and just clearing them out, and that's very surprising to me. That's the first time we've seen Mongolia really struggle in any kind of fight.
Yeah, tough fight for them. Not an easy one to win, and it cost them the game, essentially. They get 5 elims there, but then their game is pretty much stopped in their tracks, right? I think they even maybe got a 6th one there on the third party, so they got some points this game. They made sure to stay in the runnings, but they're not keeping up with Bahrain. They're running away with things right now. We see a whole lot of highlights there. We saw Ado with a massive push over the ridge to take out the 2 players below them, and later on, they deal with Kazakhstan as well. So they're keeping their enemies in check. But we have to admit, Kazakhstan is making a good second contender at the moment here, Felix.
Yeah, they really are. They really, really are. Another good game for them. Tajikistan, let's take a quick look at the side. Maitse goes out without a single frag, even though he's had 400 damage. And you can see Golden. That was his first real fight in this entire game, and he hasn't received a single point of damage. So also big shout out to Golden, who's had a pretty good performance. Even though, as I said, Tajikistan didn't really have to do too much for that game except win that last 2v2. But then again, we said about how much it means taking the chances that you've been given and turning them into a win, and that's what Tajikistan needed to do, and so far they did. So you can't really hold it against them.
No, you can't. And those games come sometimes. You have to win them. You're very sad if you don't. And they did everything they had to do. I think they could have been a little bit more proactive on the play towards the end, but they had already lost 2 members at that point, so they were trying to play it as safe as they could. 10 placement points for elims is going to nicely bump them up the scoreboard. Kazakhstan with 10, Mongolia with 7 is going to mean that we're incredibly close around that 2nd to 3rd spot on the leaderboard once we see it. And yeah, I mean, 12 elims for Bahrain is just mental stuff at the moment.
Mental stuff indeed. Jordan, maybe a quick word about Jordan as well. Jordan with only 1 point, that's gonna hurt them as we are going into that finish line kind of last. Yeah, I wouldn't say finish line just yet, but at least we're getting close to the finish line. And Jordan, they really need to, they need to not have these 1 point games anymore. I don't think they can allow themselves to have these 1 point, even 0 point games anymore. Maybe even anything below 5 is just not acceptable at this point. As we said, the top is 2 stacked. Bahrain once again with a consistent first place, at least in points, first place finish. They've gotten 11 just throughout the last game as well. So they're just not to be stopped right now. So, and it looks like Mongolia is slowing down a little bit, but Kazakhstan is picking up the pace. So there is 1 more, maybe 2 more contenders anyway. So yeah, if Jordan wants to make the upset real, they need to stay sharp.
131 smokes to nades, a little bit more of what we would have expected on a bigger map, a map that has a little bit slower fights, maybe more use for it for smokes as well, as we come from Sanok towards Erangel. And as we're going to go to the match summary too, we'll have a little bit more individual stats for elims for Kaz, and the rest is all Bahrain. Even the most healing, which is usually a different team, even the most healing is for Bahrain in this one.
Yeah, up 6 taking up highest eliminations. I think it was a little bit of a surprise to me, just based off of how many frags Bahrain had. But Bahrain did kind of equal it out and kind of, you know, split it between all of them. But let's take a look at the match MVP. It was Pod, who had also 4 eliminations, 3 total assists and 1 headshot. His survival time, 25 minutes. Pretty good game for Pod. Pretty good game for Bahrain. Again, they will pick up more and more confidence, and as of right now, I think they're in absolute prime position to be our very first contender to go to Riyadh later this year.
Oh, absolutely. I think they are looking locked in. They're looking absolutely like they're qualified. They would have to pretty much fumble the rest of the games here today, or just insane things would have to happen for Kazakhstan or Mongolia, or both of them, to be fair. So, looking great right now. We have Tajikistan versus a pre-pod on the head-to-head, and well, they've played different games, right? They've played different games. 2 kills for Dodo, but 4 elims for pre-pod, 3 assists. 4 times the damage as well, more survival time. Gives you a good idea of what's happened this game here.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Let's take a look at some of these head-to-head statistics. 4 eliminations for Tajikistan, 12 for Bahrain. I think the difference is quite clear, to say the least. Bahrain had to fight their way through the northern side, while Tajikistan was, unfortunately for them, and to some degree unfortunately, to some degree fortunately, blessed with a circle. Usually if you do get blessed with the circles, you kind of want to at least have some amount of kill potential, and I like what they did in the earlier phases. They looked around on which rotations they can, you know, maybe get a pick at, but this time around, you know, there wasn't anything to be gained. Like, no team, especially in a 10-team lobby or a 9-team lobby like we have right here, no team was really ever around them, so them getting the circle was not as good as it maybe was the game before that, right? With Bahrain actually having a lot of kill potential, but not actually doing anything with it, quite in contrast to now.
They tried to flex out of the compound and they couldn't, and then in the end they made sure to win the game. So hats off to them. Brings them into contention for potentially a 2nd place, but I feel like that's the topic we're talking about for the rest of the day, is who gets 2nd place. We now have a 20-point gap at our top. We were 1 point gapped after match 6. Now after match 8, 20 points between Bahrain and now Kazakhstan, who have been able to surpass Mongolia in 3rd. So that's going to be the story of the day. I feel like we're fighting for 2nd when we're looking at most of our teams here.
24 points only for Turkmenistan. Crazy. I thought there were... It's crazy to me because Lebanon has even less than that. So I thought both of these teams would have a shot at, you know, potentially at least the middle of the pack, but so far they are not performing at all. It's so surprising to me, especially Lebanon. I know I've said it a million times, but 10 placement points only in 8 games when you literally only need to survive the first, maybe at this point, only 1 team, right, to get a single placement point. I mean, top 8 already gives you a single placement point, and they've only got 10 of them. So they've, on average, they've gone out almost always as one of the very first teams. And with the amount of experience they have between their players, it's just, I can't really explain why.
Yeah, they've had a tournament to forget. Let's put it that way. They've not had the performance they would want.
Yeah.
We have the games you want, though. And we are going to head to a very short break before we come back for game number 3 on Erangel in just a few minutes.